some pretty key players are going to have to step up for Alabama in the second half of the season.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA Radio Network. Luke Robinson, that's me. Bama Online's Jimmy Stein, that's him. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. We'll talk about FanDuel here in just a bit. I want to thank you everydayers and you newbies. We love you all. So, Jimmy, I was thinking about this. During the off week, it can be, a bit of it's just wonky, right? But this off week's different. Like, I think even the fans needed it. Like, need a break, need to sort of gather ourselves. I had a very real talk with somebody on our show that we do on Tuesday nights, not you and me, another show. I was looking at all the teams that are undefeated and all the teams that either have one loss and their schedule sets up so nicely for them. And I was like, oh my God, this sort of made me realize I don't think we can lose another game. So in the spirit of that, who needs to step up? Now take out Jalen Milroe. I think that's the obvious answer. He obviously has to play better than he's played these last three games. I think that's so obvious. Let's not even go there. It's almost insulting to everybody else to say it has to be him.
There isn't a team out there whose quarterback doesn't need to play well to win the games.
Well, and also I would say there isn't a team out there whose quarterback doesn't need to play better because this is not necessarily the year of the quarterback. So I think that's fair all the way around. So I'll let you go first if you want to. I've already got a couple in mind if you'd rather I go first, but I have a couple on offense and a couple on defense that I feel like have to step up to make it where Alabama can run the table.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here because I'll start with the running back spot. I mean, we did get really good production in the second half, especially against Missouri from the running back spot. That's got to continue. It takes heat off of Milroe. We need to limit Milroe's runs just simply because if there is a postseason, let's have him completely healthy for it. That's when you can really start, riding the horse there. But I think getting good production from the running back spot is absolutely key. We saw it in the last game, and I'll consider Haynes and Miller like to be one guy for purposes of this exercise. And secondly, I think Ryan is a good answer at receiver, but I would like to have a third guy kind of join Ryan and Jeremy as being extremely dependable. And I really like what I've seen out of K-Law recently. So I think Kendrick Law becoming a bigger focus of the offense could be big. And defensively, pass rush, it's got to get better. Q Robinson has had a really good year rushing the passer. He just doesn't play a ton of snaps because he splits time with Quay Russaw and even Keanu Coote to an extent. But Q Rob and Overton rushing the passer, I think they've been the two best. And it needs to be even better. So that's where I would go in terms of guys that I think really need to have huge Novembers.
All right. Well, I could have just said, hey, Jimmy, why don't you just tell us that everybody on the team needs to get better? That would have been a better thing for me to do.
Which would be true, by the way.
That is true.
Correct. That would have been a correct thing to say.
Okay. Well, you stole a few of mine, but I'm going to give here's two on defense for me. And it's going to seem weird because these are our two leaders in tackles on the team, and that's Jihad, Campbell, and Deontae Lawson.
Love it.
Let me tell you why I think they need to get better. Jihad still makes some really bad, I don't know about position mistakes, meaning like where he's supposed to be. There was a long run, I think, in the Tennessee game. I think it was the Tennessee game where he just took the wrong position. He
took the wrong gap.
Took the wrong gap. And like, he can't be doing that. He can't be doing that anymore. And I get it. He's not been the dude, and everybody's got a learning curve. And it's unfortunate for him that his learning curve has been bumped up. He didn't have as much time to learn as some of these others. But that's the case. I think he needs to step it up a little more. I think Deontae Lawson, God bless him. I love him. I think he's wonderful. I love Jihad too. Don't get me wrong. They both, when Jihad is on, he's as good as anybody. When Deontae Lawson's on, he's as good as anybody. I would say, though, boy, tell me if I'm wrong. It just feels like to me, I go long periods in a game without hearing Deontae Lawson's name. And I don't think that's the way it should be.
I think I have a theory here about those two in particular who have it's not fair to say they've underperformed. They're good players, and I think they've both played at nearly an all SEC level, like second team all SEC. I think both of them have performed at nearly that level, but I think we might have expected more from them, even more. And this is why I think they haven't delivered. I think the shift from a two-gap defense to a one-gap has really – that's where it's really shown up in terms of the difficulty and the adjustment, because under Saban's system, the two-gap system, the defensive lineman's main job is to occupy linemen and keep the linemen off the second level. That doesn't happen in a one gap like we play now. The defensive linemen are shedding blocks and getting upfield and penetrating, leaving the offensive linemen available to put their big 300-pound bodies on those inside linebackers. So it's more on them. It's tougher. It's a different look for them. And I think that's why they've been a little off. I think it's an overstatement to say they've been bad. Absolutely not true. Just maybe not all Americans like we hope they would be. I blame the scheme change and the fact that they've had to make such a big adjustment from what they've been looking at for 2 years.
I do think it's very easy to also say that the running backs need to step it up, but the running backs do need to step it up. Now, I think they started to step it up in the second half of the Missouri game. I don't think there's any question about that. And I'm really shocked to learn just today. I was today years old when I found out that both Jam and Justice average 6.1 yards per carry or more.
Yeah,
I was today years old.
That is surprising. I've been working on LSU stuff this morning for BOL, and I can tell you who would love to have two backs that average 6.1 yards a carry, and that's LSU. They've had a bigger struggle than Alabama running the ball. No, that's encouraging, actually. And I know Haynes has a few long runs, which affect the average, but of course it affects the average. They're long runs. What do we want to do? Pretend like they don't happen?
Yeah, you count the short runs too.
Exactly. What about when a left guard completely whiffs the block and he's tackled for 3 yards for a loss? We count that, So I think the average yard per carry number is interesting and encouraging.
Now, so I'm not going to use them because I think you and I both said, okay, they clearly need to step up too. But I do totally agree with you on the wide receiver. Somebody outside of Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard has to step up. You know who our third leading receiver is in terms of catches?
In the receiver room?
No. Just our third leading receiver, period.
In terms of catches?
Yeah. You can't have long pauses.
CJ Dupree?
No, Justice Haynes.
Really?
He has 16 catches. Dupree only has 14.
That's the third leading? See, that's
he goes 35 to Ryan, 30 to Jeremy, and 16 to Justice Haynes. We're not that kind of off. I mean, if we ran a lot of screens or something, okay, I'd go, okay. I don't remember running any screens. I remember, we'd go to some checkdowns. We might do a wheel route. Again,
I've been going through LSU numbers this morning. They throw it more than we do. As a matter of fact, how about this? I mean, in terms of what to look for, LSU's had trouble running the ball, so they just don't. Garrett Nussmeier, 50 attempts against Texas A&M. I mean, so Garrett Nussmeier may throw it 50 times versus Alabama. Their leading receivers, their wide receiver 1, 2, and 3, they catch a lot of balls. Kyron Lacy, number 1, Aaron Anderson, 2, CJ Daniels, 3. They all catch a lot of balls. They have a lot more. They have catches more like what Ryan and Jeremy have, or even more. Yeah. Aaron Anderson and Kyron Lacy have over 600 yards receiving. Even CJ Daniels has about 500. And their second leading receiver in terms of receptions, the tight end Mason Taylor, he's caught 38 balls.
Yeah, Mason Taylor haunts us already anyway.
He does, and that's going to come up again. You're talking about Jihad and Deontae Lawson. They're going to have a lot of pass coverage duty on Mason Taylor.
And and I'm looking here at, again, another reason somebody else in the receiver room. I guess I don't even care if it's a receiving running back, a tight end, or whatever. But Ryan Williams has 702 yards receiving. Then Jeremy Bernard has 463. And then the next is 169 with CJ Dupree. That's the thing about Justice Haynes. 16 catches for 90 yards. We need to quit throwing it to him. I don't mean that as a shot at him. Please understand.
No,
but
we need to have more than 90 yards on 16 catches.
60. If you had 16 carries for 90 yards, I'd be like, okay, that's not awful. I mean, you're averaging 5.5 yards a carry. 16 catches for 90 yards is bad.
No, so you should have at least 160 yards. I mean, at least make it 10 yards a pop, right?
I mean, the only other guy, Ron Williams, Jeremy Dupree, Prentice even, Cuevas, Law, Adams, and Henderson all average 11 yards a catch or more. Now, when you talk about averaging under that, you got Caleb Odom, who plays sparingly. You got Rico Scott, Robbie Oots, who is just like, please, God, I got to throw it to somebody. Jam Miller, who's in the same position as. So, anyway, I think a wide receiver somewhere, and I don't care if it's Kobe Prentice, I don't care if it's Kendrick Law. I think Kendrick Law could be that dude. Boy, how much fun could it be if we have a Kendrick Law, Aaron Anderson battle royale in Baton Rouge in about a week and a half? But Jimmy, we got to go to break now. Going to tell you about FanDuel in a very country-esque voice for some reason. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets. Are you kidding me? No, I'm not kidding you. If you win, you got to win, but you still get $150 in bonus bets if you win that $5 bet. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, all in one place, yo. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. It's that simple. Just clickety-click. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's only at FanDuel.com, which, of course, as I tell you many times per day, it's America's #1 sportsbook. Okay, so we're going to do some predictions for this weekend, even though Bama's not playing. Some of these games will have an effect on Bama. First of all, let's start right at the tippy top. For some reason, Fox loves to put its best game on at 11 o'clock in the morning before some people are even up, or while some people are coaching their 8-year-old daughter in soccer, like moi. And anywho, Penn State at Ohio State, we're not sure who's going to be the starting quarterback for Penn State. Drew Aller is a little banged up. They got some other dude whose name I always butcher, so I won't say anything. The line is Ohio State -3.5. I am really leaning Ohio State here, but there is something about this Ohio State team that ain't right. There's I think this is one of those moments where it's like, you know what it feels like, maybe a New York Jets kind of situation where you have paid all this money. You got all these folks coming in. You got a bunch of good players individually, but for whatever reason, they don't gel. It feels like Ohio State doesn't gel. That said, I'm picking Ohio State to win just because they always beat Penn State.
They do. I'm going to pick Penn State here just on this. If Penn State's not going to beat Ohio State this time, when are they ever going to beat them? This is the year to do it. They have a good team. They're playing them at home. Ohio State can't run the ball, even though they got those two incredible backs and Henderson and Judkins. I just think it's Penn State's turn to win this game. Most of the time they lose to Ohio State, almost all the time under Franklin, they lose to Ohio State because Ohio State has the better team. Ohio State may have the better team again, but it's just closer than it's ever been and at home. I think Penn State wins, and boy, that puts Ohio State in a tough spot where then they may or may not make the playoff with their two losses because they won't really have a big win.
I don't think they'll make it, Jimmy. I don't see how you get your biggest win, assuming you went out, would be an Indiana squad that, okay, everybody's in love with right now, but we all kind of know this is fool's gold. So
I would think so. I would think so, but if they beat Ohio State, they do have a lot of transfers. if they beat Ohio State, that would be fun. Boy, Indiana be in the playoff for sure then.
Oh, yeah. Now, you want to talk about something that's kind of funny? Ohio State, man, this offense at the beginning of the season, oh, my God, they got Will Howard. Oh, my God, they got Travion Henderson. They got Quinshon Judkins. They got Jeremiah Smith, Abuka. They got some other dudes. They probably got Jackson Smith and Jigba back. No, they don't. I know he's in the pros. But they got all these dudes, right? Quinshon Judkins is our leading rusher, and he's got 70 more yards than Jam Miller on the season. Now,
they can't run the ball. And in part because now they've had significant issues injury-wise on the offensive line. That's what they're going to tell you the problem is. But look, it's Ohio State. Let's say, Alabama, we've had some injury issues. Geno Vandermark has to split time with Jaden Roberts because he can't go the full 60 minutes. We've played 2 right tackles in Pritchett and Formby. And Formby, by the way, has quietly been much better since his disaster game. He's played okay. He's coming in every now and then for Pritchett at right tackle. I'm just saying, I don't think at Alabama our fans would be like, well, we lost a couple offensive linemen, so the season's, hosed. It's Alabama. You're supposed to have some depth. Ohio State should have better depth on their offensive line based on how they recruit, but that has been the issue. I think Penn State wins, but it's close. Gosh knows we shouldn't be surprised if it's Ohio State based on their dominance in this series.
No, there's no doubt. And it is interesting about because you look at Ohio State at the beginning of the season, you thought, how in the world is anybody going to stop them? Frankly, Nebraska stopped them. If Nebraska doesn't have some brain gas a couple of times in that game, they probably win it at Ohio State. Now, I understand some people be like, well, what about South Carolina and Alabama? What about, South Florida dominating Alabama for a little while? What about all that? That's true. I would also argue Alabama's overall schedule is clearly better than Ohio State's. I don't think anybody's going to argue with it.
Strength of schedule rating makes that clear.
Yeah.
No doubt. But, yeah.
We got to zip through a few of these others now because we spent way too much time on, frankly, the only game that's probably worth watching outside of the second game that's worth watching, which is Texas A&M at South Kakalaki.
I'm picking South Carolina to win the game. I think they'll win it outright, just being at home, and A&M coming off their big emotional win. So I'm going to go South Carolina. But it makes me nervous. It reminds me a couple of weeks ago of Arkansas LSU, and everybody on the planet Earth said Arkansas would win that game, and LSU showed up and won. Why? Because LSU's better than Arkansas. A&M's better than South Carolina. So it makes me nervous that me and everyone else is picking South Carolina because we know A&M's a better team.
Yeah, I'll pick South Carolina too because I really want to, manifest it. I want to make it. I want to speak it into existence because I think is better for Alabama. I'm not sure they can do it, but I'll say this. I don't know that Texas A&M is better than South Carolina on defense. I think they're clearly better than them offensively, if only because of the quarterback. But I think South Carolina's defense will be better prepared for Marcel Reed than LSU's defense was, which – just for whatever reason, I guess they just said, they ain't playing Marcel Reed again. Why even look at running quarterbacks?
Yeah, I think this is a great game. I know it's not a great day of games when Pitt SMU is maybe the second best game of the day in terms of ranked teams. But although I am interested in Pitt SMU, but I'm really interested in A&M South Carolina because, again, A&M's in first place in the SEC, and they could end up losing to what amounts to an average SEC team that's likely to finish around 4-4 in the league. So I find it very interesting.
Well, if South Carolina does beat them, I think I'd be hard pressed to call them average anymore. They
average in the sense that they're going to finish probably around 4-4.
Hold your horses, Jimmy. Mm-hmm. If they do beat them, if South Carolina beats A&M, they'll be 5-3, and they're not 5-3. They'll be, what are they? They're 4-3 overall. So what the heck will they be, Jimmy?
5-3.
Yeah, they'll be 3-3 with Missouri and Wofford next. No, Missouri and Vanderbilt. Yeah, they got Wofford, but Missouri and Vanderbilt next.
No, they could easily. Yeah, so maybe they could get up to 5-6 conference wins.
if they get up to 5, well, they can't get to 6. That would be mathematically impossible. But they can get that would be a story.
I'm new to math.
South Carolina's they went 6-3 in an 8-game schedule. That's crazy. But they're better than we thought. Vandy, they can beat Vandy in Missouri. Now, Vandy, we know what Vandy is. They're tough, right? I mean, we know this. But if they win these next 3, they go 6-3 in the conference. And then, I mean, I'm going to assume they beat Wofford, right? So that's 4 more wins. They would be 8-3 heading into Clemson. I don't know that they'll beat them. I mean, it's a long way between hither and yon, but I'm just saying.
They could beat Clemson. Clemson, everybody's like, hey, Clemson's back. They haven't beat anybody good. I know they've been impressive. I don't think anybody should buy on Clemson until they beat somebody good.
The only game South Carolina has really stunk it up against, ironically, is Ole Miss. And if Ole Miss had lost to Kentucky, I'd be willing to bet South Carolina would have beaten them because Ole Miss was due for I'm going to just zombie through a game. And they just zombied through the previous one instead of the South Carolina game. You know what I mean?
Right. By the way, I don't think they're going to zombie through the Arkansas game this weekend, but I got a feeling there. I don't know that Arkansas is going to pull off the upset over Ole Miss this weekend. But I bet it's tight. I think that'll end up being one of the games of the day right there is Ole Miss at Arkansas. I think it's either going to be a fun upset that officially ends Ole Miss's season, or Ole Miss wins in kind of a classic fashion.
Okay. Does Florida have any opportunity at all to beat Georgia?
If they had Mertz, I would say I'd keep my eye on it. But without Mertz, Lagway's too young. Lagway's not ready for that.
And does Michigan have any chance to beat Oregon?
Here's what I like about that. My answer is no. They don't have enough firepower. Oregon will outscore them. But what does Lee Corso say all the time? I think this is very applicable here. Yeah, Oregon wins, but closer than the experts think. Michigan's got a lot of pride. It's at the Big House. This is an excellent opportunity for Michigan to erase a lot of the nightmare that's been 2024 for them. I bet this is tight. I bet it's tight. But, yeah, Oregon has enough offense, and I don't know that Michigan can score.
Yeah, Michigan.
Shout out to our guy Tosh, who I know people say, "Oh, it's Dan Lanning's defense." Yeah, but it was Nick Saban's defense and Kirby Smart and Jeremy Pruitt. Kirby and Jeremy got a lot of rightful attention. Just saying, Oregon's defense is outstanding, and the defensive coordinator's Tosh. I won't be surprised if Tosh is in line for a head coaching job in the next 2 years.
All right. One word answer: Auburn or Vanderbilt?
Vanderbilt.
Ooh, I knew I liked you. I'm wish casting there too because I think Auburn wins that game.
You do?
I think the run is over for Vandy. I wish
Vanderbilt has been better than Auburn in 2024.
Zero question. But I also it makes me feel better if I pick Auburn to lose and they win. I feel worse than if I pick them to win and they lose. So
they're not sneaking up on Auburn. I mean, one thing, Vanderbilt doesn't always get this, but they're going to get Auburn's A game for whatever Auburn's A game is. Vandy's going to get it.
All right. Listen, our friends over at 5 Hour Energy know that being a passionate football fan isn't just a hobby. It's a way of life. It is for us. It takes a lot of energy to power through all-day tailgates and touchdown celebrations and bad officiating calls or agonizing second overtimes, which is why they've created the Fan 5-Hour Energy Shot with a special flavor called Fan Fuel. The energy shot made just for super fans like us, the fans who are in the parking lot first and who are the last to leave. We see you. Look, you know what else gave me a bit of Bama fan fuel this week? The moment when Justice Haynes ran over that dude. He just low man wins and Justice Haynes made it happen. And that was sort of like my own version of Bama fan fuel. But you want to go get this fan fuel from 5 Hour Energy because 5 Hour Energy knows that no matter what team you root for, being a fan requires heart, soul, and a whole lot of energy. What's your fan fuel this week? Whatever it is, do it with a 5 Hour Energy. Available on 5hourenergy.com and, of course, is shipped nationwide. Okay, just a few quick Bama NFL notes. Derrick Henry is not dead. He is the leading rusher in the NFL. He is on pace, or at least close to pace, to get 2,000 yards again this year, which would be holy cow at age 30. It sucks that the Ravens lost to the Browns this weekend, but I guess if you're a Browns fan, I mean, you're like, Jameis Winston was pretty fun to watch. That's pretty interesting. Cam Robinson just got traded from the Jacksonville Jaguars to the Minnesota Vikings. So he goes from a team that is not going to make the playoffs to a team that is going to be one of the Super Bowl favorites.
Yeah, that's big news for Cam. I'm really excited for him. I like that fit. I like that he's going to a winning team, playing with Dallas Turner and Will Reichard. Now the Vikings have a strong Alabama flavor, and very excited for Cam, who's a unrestricted free agent when the season's over.
Are there any Bammers on the Bears? I can't remember off the top of my head. Eddie Jackson used to be, but he's not anymore.
There is not.
Well, see, like that whole division, the Monsters of the Midway kind of thing. You got Minnesota has a bunch of Bams. Green Bay has Josh Jacobs and Xavier McKinney. And then there's Detroit. Detroit's loaded with so many Bammers that one of them, J-Mo Winston, keeps getting in trouble, and we hardly even notice because they got so many other Bammers.
Yeah, J-Mo, Gibbs, Brian Branch. I think there's others, but Terrion.
And Brian Branch is playing out of his mind.
PFF says, not this past week, but the 2 weeks before that, PFF's grades, Brian Branch was the best player in the NFL for 2 straight weeks. And playing a new position, by the way. They moved him from nickel corner to safety. So he's playing a pure safety. And since they moved him to safety, he graded out higher than any player at any position in the NFL for 2 straight weeks. So he's going to be headed to a Pro Bowl near you. Very excited for him. A heck of a player at Alabama, too. Primarily a nickel corner at Alabama and Saban's old star position. But, man, what a player he is.
Dude.
Will Anderson's having a great year, too, in Houston.
Oh, Will Anderson is like Houston can't say enough good things about him right now. John Mechie had some clutch catches the other day against Indianapolis.
I'm so happy for him. Man, Mech was spectacular. We don't talk about it enough. It's 3 years ago. Mech was spectacular for Alabama in 2021.
I mean, my kingdom for another John Mechie or a J-Mo. If you have a combo like a Mechie and a J-Mo,
yeah,
and you got a quarterback that can hit them, because think about how hard it is as a quarterback. Think about this. Like, okay, you have all these timing routes, right? But the receivers can move around a little bit. But your timing is different when you're trying to hit J-Mo versus Mechie. I love John Mechie, but he ain't in the speed category of
your
J-Mo.
Quarterback's not winning the Heisman without John Mechie and J-Mo. I mean, they're a huge, huge part of the reason that Bryce Young won that trophy.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And, it's been Quinnen Williams had a big game for the Jets stink. The Jets just can't do it. They can't do it.
If you want to make I can't say the other word. If you want to make my doo-doo list, this is how you make the doo-doo list.
That is Ready? For whatever reason, doo-doo is my moist. Some people can't say moist without like cringing. Like, really? I'd rather you say the curse word.
Well, the boss wouldn't.
I know.
But I say I don't like the midseason firings. What are you trying to accomplish there? I mean, how is that? I mean, I'm sure somebody out there is going to say, "Oh, what about the 1 year where they fired the guy, then they won a bunch of games?" I'm saying, look, if there's so many problems that you have to even contemplate firing the head coach midseason, then it ain't just the head coach.
Yeah,
it's not just that. And I don't like the midseason firings. I'm starting to get it in college football a little bit because you got to get a jump on getting a hire done in time for signing day and the transfer portal. The calendar kind of makes it in college football to where, hey, firing the college coach for the end of the season makes some level of sense. But once the Jets fired Saleh and made it appear, and I know they all deny it, but made it appear that Aaron Rodgers fired him.
Yeah.
They were dead to me this year. I'm like, I'm done with the Jets. They're on the list that shall not be named.
Yeah, they really screwed up, and it's not been fun. But this whole thing started with Derrick Henry, and he's just been.
Yeah.
Again, I'm going to say it again. The fact that Derrick Henry isn't mentioned in the same breath with all-time football greats, maybe it's because he hasn't been retired, so people can't wax poetic enough about him. But what we're watching right now in real time is absolute unquestioned greatness.
Yeah, it's one of the great. He's one of short list, one of the greatest running backs that have ever lived.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. So, all right, that's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back sometime. We'll be back sometime. We're on off week. So we'll talk to you then. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.